Welcome to Shadow of Truth with your host Dave Franzler from InvestmentResearchDynamics.com and Rory Hall from thedaycoin.org. And today is Monday, October the 31st, and we have a very special show today for you guys. And John Titus from Best Evidence is going to join us to break down the Comey-Clinton email that has exploded over the weekend. Thank you for being here.
So, John, a couple things first. I happened to see it was a screen cap on it might have been Fox News or something this morning. Apparently, the Chicago Tribune published an editorial 2 days ago asking for Clinton to step down.
Yeah, it was Saturday night.
Have you read that, John? Because I've got it pulled up.
I found that kind of interesting, considering who the mayor of Chicago is.
That is interesting.
And also because, the Tribune is typically more of a liberal-leaning paper.
Well, it's historically Republican, Colonel McCormick. So I wouldn't read too much into that, but who knows? I mean, it's possible that the Tribune talked to its lawyers and they filled the editorial staff in on the massive significance of reopening this investigation. I mean, this is going to be insane. What we're about to see is going to amaze everybody.
It's pretty incredible.
The other thing that I found really fascinating is when it came out that the Department of Justice blocked any FBI probes into the Clinton Foundation related to the email.
I found that interesting myself for different reasons than you.
Well, let's dig into this. Why do you say what people are going to see, what's going to be unearthed is going to blow people's minds?
Let's start with where we are, where things stood before Comey reopened the investigation. Okay, just to sort of set the table. Before he reopened the investigation, the FBI had looked at certain information, but they hadn't looked at a whole bunch of other information. They didn't look at Clinton's Apple server because it was deleted. It couldn't be located. They couldn't look at her MacBook or a thumb drive because it was lost. There was 2 BlackBerries with no SIM card in them. There were 13 mobile devices that had been lost. Server backups had been deleted. The emails and the laptops of both Cheryl Mills and Heather Samuelson had been bleach bitted, wiped clean after the subpoena issued. Clinton's email archive also bleach bitted after the subpoena issued. Remember, there was a subpoena from Congress.
Right.
And there was a backup of a PRN server, which had been manually deleted, also post-subpoena. Now, all that that compilation comes from Titus, and I put that together. So what the FBI did review was a limited universe of information. And what they found was 2,100 classified emails, including 200 that were expressly marked confidential or top secret, at the time of the investigation. They were marked confidential or top secret at the time they were sent. So that's where we were when Comey stepped up and said, I don't think there's any evidence of intent here. And the law in play at that time was a statute that said there's 3 things in the statute. Did you have confidential information? Did you have national security information? Did it get out of your control? And were you negligent? That's it. And the facts, as Comey laid them out, clearly satisfied all 3 elements of that crime. There was also, did you report it to your superior? But there was no issue that she hadn't reported it to Obama. So that left everybody scratching their heads, saying, why didn't Comey go after her under the statute, which was 18 U.S.C. 793F? So that's where we were when Comey reopened this investigation. Okay. Now, what we've since learned is that the FBI now has 650,000 emails. That number is a huge red flag. Dave, you and I talked. I have I check my own email. I have 20,000 emails going back to 2005. 650,000 emails is an astronomical number. And where did it come from? Because two people don't generate 650,000 emails. I think it's entirely possible that Uma Abedin, I don't know what happened, but she needed to use Wiener's computer, her husband's computer. Maybe she left hers at work, who knows? And called her tech guy or synced into the Clinton.com email, whatever she did. She probably did an Outlook. She might have synced up with the Clinton or the Hillary Clinton email server and not known that all of the emails, everything that she had access to, as if she were at Hillary Clinton's residence right next to the server, everything might have been downloaded into that computer. Because 650,000 emails is an unbelievable figure.
Let me stop you for a second right there. I hope I don't ruin your train of thought. Is it possible that a lot of the emails or the emails that Hillary Clinton bleached off of her server, is it possible those emails might be in there?
It's not possible. It's highly likely. It's possible that the FBI is now sitting on the El Dorado of this investigation because they might have complete access to everything that Uma would have had access to as if she were in Hillary Clinton's residence at the time, well before any bleach bidding. Moreover, there's a question of how recently did that sync work? When was the last time the Outlook synced up? Now, I'm speculating about that. I don't know what happened. I do know that the 650,000 figure is just breathtaking.
That's at least a lifetime of emails from
There's
multiple people.
33,000 deleted emails. 650,000 is 20 times bigger than that.
It's incredible.
So that's where we are. What I can also tell you is that there is a guideline for FBI that says you shouldn't release public information within 60 days of the election, of an election. Improperly influences public opinion, but it's not a rule. It's a guideline. It says you shouldn't do it. It doesn't say thou shalt not do it. It's simply a guideline. And Comey clearly went contrary to that guideline. For him to have done that, there had to be something huge in what the FBI is sitting on. He didn't do that willy-nilly. He's not that kind of guy. He's not gonna, he's not a shoot from the hip type of guy. Comey remember, he was deputy attorney general under Bush. He left there and went to, I believe, Lockheed Martin. And then he went and made a lot of money at Lockheed. I think
Right, it was Lockheed, but I read an article that connected the money he got paid there because of his ties into the Clintons.
Yeah, but it's a tenuous connection that runs through his brother. Comey himself, I'll tell you where he worked. He worked at Lockheed, then he worked at a hedge fund, like a big one, like BlackRock. Don't quote me on that, but it's a hedge fund. And then, curiously, very curiously, he accepted a position on the non-voting board of directors at HSBC, everybody's favorite money launderer. And he accepted that in January of 2013. His name was floated for FBI directorship to replace Miller in March. And then his appointment went forward with the confirmation of the Senate in, I believe it was August of 2013. So there's really nothing to tie Comey directly to the Clinton Foundation that I know of.
Except that he was on the board.
He was on the board of HSBC.
So he's directly connected to the banksters, which was the question I wanted to ask John. Is what is your gut telling you that who's passing this order down? Because obviously, like you said, he didn't make this decision on his own.
Well, think that he did make the decision. That's what I'm saying, because all indications are that Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, has directed the FBI to stand down on the
Right.
Clinton Foundation investigation, which is a separate investigation. Now, interestingly, I'm working on a video now about HSBC, and I can tell you during the course of that, in 2010, there was a separate investigation into HSBC by the FBI or the DOJ or the U.S. Attorney's Office in West Virginia, and they apparently had some traction, and an order issued for them to stand down, so that the prosecutors in Brooklyn, which was Loretta Lynch, she was the prosecutor of HSBC, could go forward without any input from the West Virginia U.S. Attorney's Office, which I found really interesting to see a stand down order issued back then, and then HSBC walks with a fine, and then lo and behold, Loretta Lynch gets appointed from prosecutor of HSBC to Attorney General. And now, as Attorney General, we see another stand down order about the Clinton Foundation. So I think there's a pattern here that's pretty clear. But what is going to happen with the FBI stuff now? I don't know. There's something huge in those emails. Comey didn't flout the guideline against disclosures within 60 days of an election for no reason. There's something enormous in these emails. Now, the other things that are in play are, Uma's immunity is at risk. Remember, she cut an immunity deal with the FBI. Now, of course, she says, I didn't know about the emails on my husband's computer. Frankly, I believe her about that. And because she knows that if she, part of an immunity deal is we're giving you immunity, so you tell us the truth. You're totally motivated to tell the truth, because if you lie to us after cutting an immunity deal, your immunity deal gets ripped up. So I actually believe her when she says, I didn't know about the emails on my husband's computer. That's why I think she did. Uma does not look like a very bright person to me. She looks like the kind of nitwit who would get in there and think, I need to get my work emails, and did something to mess up the Outlook so that it synced everything. And she was blithely unaware of it the entire time. Something got 650,000 emails into that computer. Now, we don't know where they come from, but that's a staggering figure. The other thing going forward is now Comey is coming under intense criticism. He is totally motivated to justify his recent disclosure, his reopening of the investigation. He is 100% motivated to prove to the public that he was right to reopen this investigation. What does that mean? What is in those emails? And finally, I'll touch on this. This could all go by the wayside if President Obama pardons a bunch of people before he leaves office. Remember, a president can pardon people before charges have ever been leveled, or before a case or an indictment has even been filed, or even before a grand jury has been convened. And we know that from the Nixon days, when Ford pardoned Nixon before there were any charges filed against Nixon, or before a grand jury had been convened. And that pardon was actually challenged in federal district court on the grounds that it was unconstitutional. And the federal court ruled in favor of Nixon. In other words, the federal district court ruled that Ford's pardon of Nixon, despite the absence of any pending charges, was in fact constitutional. Now, that said, a pardon only pardons people of federal crimes. A presidential pardon does not pardon people of state crimes. So, who knows? This could turn into a royal mess going down the road. Now, the one thing that sticks in my mind, and it makes me wonder about Comey, and it makes me wonder about the FBI is during the interview of Clinton that led to Comey's, I want to say dismissal, but Comey's brush off the charges. During that interview, Cheryl Mills was allowed to sit in the FBI interview. The 302 notes, which are the notes the FBI keeps of interviews, reflect the fact that Clinton had 4 attorneys there, and one of them was Cheryl Mills, who was implicated in the investigation. It was her emails that were bleach bitted. So she was a material witness in that investigation, and it is completely contrary to any investigation practice, including the FBI's, to allow witnesses to an investigation to sit in on the interview of another witness or a possible suspect. And the reason you don't do that is you don't give possible criminals, or you don't give suspects a chance to get their story straight. There was no rationalization. There's no justification for Cheryl Mills to have been in that deposition or that interview, because she was never, while at the State Department, she was never, she didn't work at the State Department in the role of an attorney. Even if she had, she was still a witness. I mean, I just am stunned by the fact that the FBI allowed her to sit in that interview. That tells me, there's something crooked was going on during that whole interview. But whatever it was, there's a Loch Ness monster in these new emails. Of that, you may rest assured.
Well, here's the thing, because I want to get back to, what Comey's motivation is here. And you're right. I went and I looked up the sequence of his background. He was at Lockheed, and then he was also at HSBC, and he was on the board of a subcommittee there in London. And both Lockheed and HSBC were ample donors to the Clinton Foundation.
Right.
And we know that defense companies have carte blanche to do whatever they want to make money. HSBC, it took a long time before they were finally prosecuted. So
they were never prosecuted. They were no. They were given a deferred prosecution.
They were pushed into a settlement.
Yes.
Yes, the threat of prosecution. And clearly the Department of Justice has done what it can every step of the way to shut down this email investigation.
Correct.
Including Eric Holder coming out today, the ex-attorney general coming out and saying, and he's supposed to be working for a private firm, Comey broke protocol.
Well, Eric Holder,
that blows my mind as well. I mean,
you can take anything Eric Holder says with 2 tons of salt. The man is a liar. So is Lanny Brewer. They're 2 liars. Just throw everything they say, just throw it in the garbage can. It's worthless.
Is breaking protocol mean that you're trying to get the truth out there, and that major league felonies were committed, and it's to destroy the cover up going on?
Well, frankly, it is
connected to potentially the next president of the United States. Is it breaking protocol to expose the truth?
No, it is not, and that is why.
Right.
That is why the FBI guideline is not written in mandatory language. It says you shouldn't make these disclosures, not that you must not make the disclosures. And the reason for the language that way is so that people can exercise the rule of reason. Is it reasonable under the circumstances for me to, quote unquote, breach protocol and make these disclosures? And what I'm saying is that the only reason to breach protocol and to go against the guideline is that it's reasonable to do so. And the reason it's reasonable to do so is that there is something massive that the FBI didn't know about in the 650,000 emails. And it implicates people in crimes that the FBI didn't know about, but for the fact that they now have 650,000 emails that contain something in them. That might also include, by the way, evidence that all those servers and everything else that was wiped and bleach bitted and deleted and manually deleted were wiped for the specific purpose of avoiding the investigation. So you're also looking at, another potential charge wrapped up in this reopening the investigation is perjury and obstruction charges. But certainly obstruction is now in play with the revelation that there's 650,000 emails sitting in that number is just breathtaking.
It's mind-boggling. What do you think Comey's motivation is here? Because it looked like, just as an outsider looking in, it looked like after that meeting Bill Clinton had with Loretta Lynch in the back of a plane on a runway, that it looked like the Department of Justice had conspired with the FBI to quash everything and cover it up, and to zip up the investigation and let the presidential election go on.
Well,
And
I
at that
think that
point, Hillary looked like a shoo-in to win.
Comey came under intense pressure from the corrupt Department of Justice, the thoroughly corrupt Department of Justice. He came under pressure because remember, the FBI is part of the DOJ, right? A lot of people lose sight of that fact. Now, there is some independence as between the FBI director and the Attorney General, but he came under intense pressure, and I think he went against his better instincts. I think all those stories about outraged FBI agents are true. And that people, there was a story in the Daily Mail about how Comey, after that decision, is walking down the hallways and people are shunning him in the FBI. That story came out yesterday in the Daily Mail from the UK. Now, I don't know whether that's exactly true, but I find it believable. Having done the research on the HSBC case and the money laundering charges, I'll tell you that there are very, very talented people in the Treasury Department, in the FBI, in the DOJ, who know right from wrong, but they're never going to reach positions of serious power. And I think what you're seeing is, people almost a mutiny when within the FBI by agents at the, let's say, the lieutenant colonel level or below, saying this is just an outrage. What are you going to do now that we have these emails, these new emails that they thought they deleted? Hillary took a big gamble when she told the people, oh, I didn't review any classified information in those emails. There was no classified information. The gamble was that they had wiped everything that needed to be wiped. Now we find out that Uma, she did something on Wiener's computer to get a lot of emails in there. And now the FBI has reopened the investigation. And that gamble is looking like a big loser. Because now, we have congressional testimony from Hillary. It's on the record saying this and saying that. And when she gave that testimony, she didn't know what would happen down the road. And now it's possible that the FBI has email after email after email and metadata undermining Hillary's claims. She's in real trouble. So is Uma, by the way. This is a real problem for them. This is a Watergate type situation. We just don't know. We don't know the content of those emails.